Well, hello folks. Just thought I would do a little bit of an update on what I've been doing today and just give you a bit of an insight into some of the things that I find, some of the decisions I then need to make, things like that, all in order to try and fix guitars and get the best solution, I guess. So today I was very excited because I was going to start working on the 1974 Yamaha FG200. So I knew that it was going to be dirty. I knew that it was going to need a clean. I knew that it was probably going to need bridge pins, nut, saddle, all that kind of stuff. But the thing I guess I noticed about it, first of all, when I started to really look into it, was the action at the sort of 12th fret and onwards was like this. It was like super high. And then at the other end, it was kind of okay. I wouldn't say it's where I would like it, but it was kind of okay. So looking at that, the first thing you do when you've got action that high and at one end with a guitar that's that old, you then look at the body. Because you're then sort of saying, well, is this the bridge coming off, or is this a neck reset, or all those sorts of things. And the way I look at it is I look at the body of the guitar kind of flat along the top. And what I'm looking for is behind the bridge towards the end of the guitar, I'm looking for any curvature. If there's curvature, then essentially what the strings are trying to do is they're trying to pull the bridge up, because there's like 200 pounds of pressure on there. So if you see a curvature on the back side of the bridge, then essentially something is happening to the body that it shouldn't be happening. So usually what people will say is that requires a neck reset. If the action is really high and the saddle's quite low and you can't adjust things and stuff like that, it's usually a neck reset. And you will usually see a neck reset because if a neck has moved that much, you quite often, if you take a sheet of paper, around the neck joint where the neck meets the body, you might start to see cracks appearing. And if you take a piece of paper, you might actually get a piece of paper, just slide it gently into where the bottom of the neck joint meets the body. And that's a surefire sign that your neck has moved, it's coming away, the joint's weakening, those sorts of things. So in that situation, that's a definite neck reset. You've got to take the neck off, you've got to shim it up and do all sorts of things to then get it back so it's nice and tight, solidly glued, and that it's still flat. So looking at the Yamaha, I was kind of thinking this is a neck reset. But then as I looked around the neck joint, I thought, well, the neck joint looks really solid. So the next thing to do is hold a straight rule that's dead flat. And you hold it across the frets. And you look for bow in the kind of neck. So every guitar really, when you put the strings on, should have a little bit of relief in the neck. Because when you first get the neck without strings, it's dead flat, and then as soon as you put some strings on it, it kind of goes like this. So there should be a little bit of it, but not horrendously so. So when I put the ruler on the Yamaha, it actually wasn't that bad, which made me think, well, that's not quite what I was expecting. So then I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll take the strings off and I'll see where the neck sits without any tension, without the strings on. So I took the strings off and I put the straight rule across it again, and it's pretty much dead flat. There is a fraction of a millimeter of a gap in the bottom. So I thought, well, the neck is straight. I thought that looks like a good neck to me. So then I thought, well, let's see what the body's doing. So I got my straight rule and I held my straight rule up against the body, And straight away I could see some dips and some rises and things like that. So actually the problem I have with this Yamaha is not a neck reset, it's a body reset. Wouldn't that be a nice thing? So it's a body reset. So let me try and illustrate what's happening. And I'm not an artist, so bear with me. Here is our guitar, okay? So ignore this kind of squiggly line. So this is the neck, okay? This is the neck and the join where it hits the body. And this is the fretboard extending out over the top of the body. Okay, and this is the body of the guitar. And here is our bridge. Okay, so in normal situations, as soon as you put the strings on, the strings start to try and pull the neck this way. Okay, and the bridge is almost being pulled the opposite way, just under tension. Okay, but that's perfectly normal. So over time, as you take strings off, put new strings on, use different gauges, whatever it might be, as you leave the guitar out, sitting around in different humidities and things like that, what happens over time is moisture, heat, all those sorts of things cause the wood to move. So what kind of happens is, with a neck reset, the joint weakens, this lifts up, there's a gap that appears here, and we have to then reset that by taking the neck off. What I've got is a slightly different problem, which actually happens a lot more commonly than people, I think, realise when they consider a neck reset. That actually doesn't need to be a neck reset. So what's happening in my case is the neck is still flat and true, but it's still pulling up like this. But what's happening is when you get to this bit here where so let me show that, where the fretboard overhangs, the body of the guitar, sits on the body of the guitar, what's happening there is, because this is going up, that's actually going down. So then what's happening is this is forcing the Sitka spruce top to bend inwards. So that means that everything that goes down must come up kind of principle. You end up with the body starting to kind of push inwards just before and around the sound hole. So therefore what happens later on as you get further through is it then starts to go up to meet the body here. So what happens with the bridge is the bridge, instead of being flat like that, kind of does that. So you get what looks like a bridge lifting, but it's not actually. The body essentially is doing this. So you end up with this kind of curvature in the body. So when I put the straight rule against the Yamaha, that's what we get. We get a dip right around the sound hole. So that says to me that that's a body reset, not a neck reset. So what we need to do there is we need to steam, heat, all those kind of things. We need to re-clamp the body to something that is true and straight and try and push it up from the underside as well, taking care not to steam and heat the braces and things like that, because we don't want those coming loose. But what we're trying to do is trying to get so we'll clamp the neck in place so the neck stays straight and it stays true, but we'll clamp the body so that the body, we can pull it over time, we can pull it back up. So that's the challenge we've got with the Yamaha. I mean, it's a good problem to have, because if we had to do a proper neck reset and take the neck off, that would be time, money, all sorts. And to be fair, it wouldn't be worth it, not commercially anyway. So this is a much better situation to have, because actually with some steam and that, we haven't got to take the neck off, we can get the body to come back up. The challenge is it will take time, because what we'll have to do is we'll have to clamp it first of all, and then apply steam, and then just tighten the clamps to pull it up a little bit. We don't want to pull it up to the right height all in one go, because this wood has moved over decades. So the risk is if we pull it up too quickly, we may crack the top of the soundboard, which we don't want to happen, because that's a bigger problem. So what we'll do is we'll just pull it up by a bit. What we'll then do is leave it for probably a week. We'll then steam it again and we'll pull it up a little bit more. We'll then leave it for a week maybe, and then we'll steam it, pull it up again. And eventually we'll get it where the body is straight. And what we're looking for is when we put a straight rule on the fretboard and we run it along to where our bridge is, we want the ruler to just skim over the top of the bridge plate. And we want it to leave us with maybe a quarter of a millimetre or something like that. And that will allow us, when the strings are back in place, that will allow the fretboard to kind of bend up and give us that little relief. And it will also allow us to put our saddle in the end and get enough sort of height on the saddle that when we then look at the strings across the neck, they are in a good place. Then we can make minor adjustments to the action with the truss rod. We can make some minor action with the saddle and the nut and things like that. So I just wanted to share that with you because, you know, lots of us, friends of mine, people out there have old guitars, whether it's Arias, Kimbaras, whether it's Yamahas, things like that, that are 40, 50 years old. They are guitars that people love, they play, they sit around, they sit in rooms where it goes hot and cold and things like that. So if you've got high action at the 12th fret and you've got reasonable action at the 1st fret, the first thing to do is check behind your bridge. Check if there's a bellying or a rounding in your kind of back end of your body of your guitar. If there is, get yourself a straight rule and lay the straight rule on the body. If you see a dip in the body, then that tells you that the chances are you've got a body reset, not a neck reset. And they are very different, both time-wise, cost-wise, and things like that. So it's just making sure before you take it to something like a luthier or someone like me to ask me to fix it and stuff like that, it's just being clear that you know what you're asking to be redone. Because you don't want to get a neck reset if actually you don't need a neck reset, because most of those you're talking anywhere from 300 to 500 pounds to do. And on a guitar that's only worth 300 pounds, it's pointless unless it's your pride and joy. So anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope it's useful for those of you who have got some of these sorts of aging guitars that you want to keep alive and keep it kind of playing and stuff. Any comments, questions, just drop me a note or put in the comments and I'll kind of check as we go on. But yeah, so a simple way to check whether you've got a neck reset or whether you've got a body reset. All right. More videos will follow on the particular Yamaha in question, because I will get it back into a playable state, and I will be selling it on to somebody. So keep tuned.